we've been so focused on what is going on with the opioid crisis and the epidemic in this country. Sometimes I worry that we forget we have other very serious, significant issues as they relate to substance abuse. Mr. Morrison, you have noted that we don't want to forget the other substances. In Alaska, it's alcohol, has been alcohol, will be alcohol. We just had 2 villages request by way of resolution to our governor that he declare a state of emergency and to shut down a liquor store that had opened in an adjoining village because one village is dry, the other village sells alcohol. We've seen individuals go through the river, die. The tragedies continue. As I've talked to our enforcement agencies in the state, they tell me that it seems like that heroin is tapering off, but meth is now escalating through the roof. And so I'm concerned that here in Congress we're so focused on opiates as the drug du jour, if you will, and that in 5 years or so, when this crisis ends or abates or tapers, that we're going to have a bunch of federal programs that are specifically aimed at a problem that may not be as significant to the detriment of others who are dealing with other types of addictions. Mr. Morrison, I'll ask you, do you have similar concerns? Are we being too focused? Do we need to be broader to addiction in general? How do we make sure that these policies are going to really be the umbrella that we need to help those who have such significant challenges?
Our members have expressed concern about not affording the flexibility needed in order to allow states to address the issues that they face that are unique to their state. The Substance Abuse Prevention Treatment Block Grant, as you know, is a program that allows the state to target resources based on their own unique needs. Alaska receives about $6 million in that program. We also know your interest in fetal alcohol syndrome. Your leadership there is appreciated. There really isn't a federal program within particular SAMHSA that provides the service side, as you probably know. So I must say, the sheer volume of death connected to opioids is something that cannot be ignored, and I know you're not ignoring it. The ability, though, for states to address whatever it is the person walks in the door, and that problem is critical. And alcohol is indeed the #1 problem in the United States. So it's a balance, and we appreciate the leadership of this committee, but that's why our members, again, appreciate the Substance Abuse Prevention Treatment Block Grant. Its flexibility, it's consistent, and there's a specific set aside for prevention that is so critical. 70% of our members' budget for substance abuse prevention, on average, comes from the block grant. So it's vital. So I appreciate the question.
Well, it's good to keep in perspective. Ms. Donahue, in your written testimony, you state that providing mental health services in schools will address the trauma that our youth have experienced and break the cycle of multi-generational trauma that may lead to mental health concerns and substance abuse. And we certainly agree. We see the multi-generational trauma in places like Alaska, perhaps higher there than anywhere else in the country. So much of this is tied to alcohol and other drug use, sexual assault, domestic violence, and it's not just limited to the family members who are addicted. These are small villages, a couple hundred people. There is not access to a licensed social worker or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It's not feasible to fly the children into Anchorage for care, both from a practical and a financial standpoint. And so I've been working with Senator Smith here to allow National Health Service Corps members to provide services in schools, so we effectively bring the providers to the schools. We're in a position where it's just really challenging, if not impossible, to fund a mental health professional in the schools that need them. Do we have other policies that we can perhaps look to get providers into schools without putting a burden on our already underfunded school districts?
Thank you very much for that question. In Delaware, we do have behavioral health consultants that are in the middle schools for the ages 12, 13, and 14, and those have been proven to be very effective. However, the funding, as you said, with education is very difficult to overcome. So there are some models out there, such as the compassionate school model that our office is working towards, which does incorporate trauma-informed care. And so that would, in essence, provide a team approach in the school to provide those children to have that access to mental health in a trauma-informed environment where they can trust to come to school, and it's a safe place for them to speak about their trauma. The prevalence of trauma in Delaware and children coming into foster care is putting an extreme toll on our child welfare workforce as well. So we have to also look at not only mental health access for these children, but also the fact that there will be child welfare protection services that must also be funded in order to keep these children safe when abuse or neglect is identified during that mental health treatment or school atmosphere.
Well, thank you for that. Know that these are issues that, working with Senator Smith and others, we'd like to pursue. And with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.